This is Conversations on Careers and Professional Life, a podcast from the Foster School of Business, MBA Career Management Office. I'm your host, Gregory Heller. Each episode, I talk with guests, faculty, students, alumni, and business leaders about the skills, decisions, and strategies that shape real careers. The next few episodes are a mini-series called AI Ready, supported by Foster's AI Task Force. I'll be talking with students, instructors, and practitioners about how they're actually using AI in the classroom, in recruiting, and on the job. On this episode, I'm speaking with Anshula Singh, one of our full-time MBA students at the Foster School of Business, about some recent experiences that she's had working with AI. We're going to get into how students prepare to learn about AI and how they're using it in work and to create products and even companies. Anshula Singh, welcome to Conversations on Careers and Professional Life.
Thank you so much, Gregory. I'm really happy to be here and start this conversation.
So, you recently got some press in GeekWire about a pitch competition that you were involved in that revolved around an AI product you were building. I'd love for you to tell us, so we're going to sort of start with the end. Tell us a little bit about how that project came to be, how you got to be involved in that pitch, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, of course. I'd love to talk about it. It was by far one of the most compelling and fulfilling experiences that I've had in this last year of the MBA for me, which is crazy. Time is going by so quickly. So I took this pretty well-known and renowned course called Software Entrepreneurship that has now been taught for, I believe, 12 years between a partnership of the Foster School of Business and the Paul Allen School between Greg Gottsman and Ed Lazowska. And this was a course that many different MBAs have told me not to skip. And so I knew going into my winter quarter of school, I wanted to take the course. And when I showed up on the first day, there is this crazy, hectic way of doing it and forming a company which has, worked for all of these many years. In the first class, we are told that, you know, come into the next class with an idea and pitch it to the entire room of 60 to 70 plus students. And based off of the votes that every pitch gets, you will form teams. So every single student in the second class had to have a 1 minute pitch of a business idea. And so my business idea revolved around an AI voice agent that assisted small businesses. Specifically within like supply chains and insurance. And this is how I found who I now refer to my co-founders, Jessica Hadley and Reed Salis. Reed had a very similar idea on the technical side, and then Jessica wanted to create a uh, healthcare insurance solution because she currently works at a healthcare startup. And that is how the team formed. And we got a bunch of other engineering and design talent. And we all came together to iterate over what the company would do over 10 weeks. So it was a really great experience.
Okay, so let me get this straight. 70 students come into the second class, and every one of them has a 1 minute pitch ready to go. How do you keep track of 70 ideas coming at you in that quick succession? Probably a 90-minute class.
So I'm gonna be so honest, Gregory. You don't. You entirely, you can take notes. I personally was taking notes on every single person. I had my laptop ready, and for me, the way that I did it was what was the one or two words that made that pitch compelling and memorable to me. And so I personally have my own theses for startups and AI, in which I want to create the solutions for the future. And so when I heard Jessica's pitch for, healthcare and insurance, that immediately flagged my attention. And I know that that had also happened similarly to Reed and some of the other folks. But we had all sorts of pitches. And the really fun thing was that many different students had similar ideas. So it was fun to see people kind of globbing together and creating a team of like all of those folks. For instance, there was another student pitch that was going to help contract workers for estimating and auditing uh, using computer vision. The projects that they took on. And that actually had, I believe, two or three students pitching that idea. So then they all came together and to work on that idea, which was awesome.
Were all the ideas AI ideas?
Um, Pretty much, yes. And that came through from day one. Greg and Ed had mentioned over the years, but especially starting in 2024 into 2025, that pretty much all of the ideas started becoming AI ideas. And it made sense only because you only have 10 weeks to create a startup. And so if you have such little time and such little resources to kind of get going into something that is a little bit capital expenditure heavy doesn't make as much sense. And when you are working with so many different students, because again, it is a cross collaboration between different schools, you have so many different students with different learning objectives and outcomes. AI kind of becomes an equalizer so that everybody can speak the same language and it helps us collaborate more. And it wasn't that they turned us away from not using AI for our products, but it ended up being such that pretty much everyone pitched something where AI was a use case or a pretty, integral part of that process.
All right. So it's week 3. You've got your team together now.
hmm
Uh, Tell us at this point, you're like, okay, we have a sense of what our product is going to be. Give us the quick snapshot. What is this product? What does this company do?
Yes. So our company's name is Authscript. Authscript is intended to be a platform that helps providers in the healthcare world process prior authorization forms. And prior authorization forms are a healthcare administrative task that is integral to get any additional medication, procedures, for anything that is recommended to you by a provider. And it is a form between the relationship of an insurance payer and a provider to ensure that a patient can actually get cleared for coverage for the procedure that they are going through. And so the product itself was aimed to make this really manual task automated to reduce the healthcare burdens on providers and their medical assistant teams.
So, did you come into the MBA program with a technical, like product development background? Tell us a little bit about what you were doing before the MBA.
Yes. So I was a software engineer for 5 years prior to the MBA. I come from a computer science and product development background. I primarily worked in B2B SaaS applications. So I was first at Salesforce building products and then at most recently at ServiceNow building products. But I touched on many different industries from ed tech to oil and gas to government to other enterprise customers. So that is the product building background that I came in with.
So, this B2B space is sort of right in your wheelhouse. But did you have, or tell us about what kind of experience you had with AI, vibe coding, large language models to implement solutions and that sort of thing before you started the MBA?
So I came in pretty adept with AI tools. So most recently at ServiceNow, I was using machine learning to smartly automate some of the product features for one of the product suites that I created. I built a metric collection app, and then using those metrics and that data was also most recently implementing systems to smartly take actions before a user ran into any issues. So I had familiarity developing with ML. I was also helping out with training the large language models at ServiceNow by helping it with prompts and other code ingestion for our internal frameworks, because at that time back in 2020, let's see, 2023, yes, when ChatGPT 3 had come out and had become widely available, uh, what people might not remember is that the code generation for that model was extremely poor. And so we all knew, as developers, that this was only going to get better, but we had to train it. And at that time, it was really doing poorly, performing poorly with internal systems and frameworks. So you had to help train it. So I was part of that. But in my own personal life, the minute that ChatGPT became available to the wider audience, I signed up for it. And I remember I still signed up for it too late. I had to be on a wait list on it for a few months. But I have been familiar and using ChatGPT since, I would say, late 2022, early 2023.
All right. So I was going to do the math backwards. You're in the class of 2026, getting ready to
Mhm.
graduate in June,
Mhm.
and you started the program in 2024. So there was
Mhm.
really about 2 years or so where ChatGPT was available out in the wild, where this sort of
Mhm.
latest generation of large language models and transformers were available. But the progress and pace of change has been, breakneck. So
Astronomical.
while
Yeah.
you've been in the program, have there been activities at Foster that have helped you stay abreast of these latest developments, or given you cause to stay on top of all of it, as it's coming out and changing? And then maybe we can talk a little bit about the tech stack that you use to build the company.
Yes. So, I would say that I think fundamentally, I remember even when I was applying to Foster and other business schools, I remember having this thought when we had to write essays for the programs. I had done like a little bit of a thought experiment where I was like, you know what? I'm going to feed in to ChatGPT, my resume, my experiences. I wrote up all of those things, and I asked it to create like a an essay that would respond to some of these applications. And even back then, I was astounded by like how smart it sounded. It didn't sound anything like me, but it at least sounded intelligent. And I remember having that very visceral moment of, oh, this is going to change so much of how we do things.
Yeah,
And
we all had that moment at some point, I think.
yeah. And so it also made me kind of double down on, I need to be very, very keen on maintaining my own voice and my own perspective within how the models improve and develop. Because, yes, they are going to change and they're going to change the way that we work. But fundamentally, humans are still at the background and like the scaffolding that is keeping up how these LLMs or larger neural networks operate. And so when it comes to the way in which I'm keeping up, I'm only keeping up not with like every minute by minute detail of how the models are changing. I am more so looking at patterns of where can I bring my unique skill sets to the ways in which things are changing. And I have some ideas for that. Right now, it's a bunch of different experiments, but yes, things are getting faster and improving at alarming rates, but I just fundamentally have a belief that we're still the capable ones. We're still the ones creating all of this change. and driving it. So our skills are going to be helpful in the new ways in which we work within the next 10, 15, 20 plus years.
And for the most part, we're still building products for people.
Yes,
So it's people
exactly.
building products for people,
Yes.
which is pretty important. So let's talk. Tell me a little bit about the tech stack that you used to build Authscript. Like, where did we start? Was this Lovable, Bolt, combination of these things?
So actually, surprisingly, no. Reed and I were kind of in alignment where because we were building for an electronic health record system, an EHR, we actually started off with going to the sandboxes and the documentation directly of the EHR that we were trying to integrate into. So there was no Lovable just yet. There was no Bolt. We started directly with where we were building. And he used Claude Code in order to get some of like the integrations and migrations into play, but a lot of it, because we were using a legacy software system, actually meant that we were working on that legacy software system, and he used, I believe, I want to say C sharp or some other object oriented programming language, because he is a Microsoft engineer, but we did not create any sort of prototype with the current prototyping tools. We were very intentional on building within the system, and more so using uh, agentic AI as just a collaborator to help us kind of work through some of the system design things.
All right. So no real vibe coding with these platforms that will build you an app in 50 seconds.
No,
But
no,
really
because
like hardcore coding using the AI tools to support that coding, but really coding
yes.
within the platforms that you were trying to match up with and integrate with. Now,
Yes.
did you use AI in the process of developing the pitch and the sort of the concept, maybe to do research? Were there other aspects over the course of this project where you leveraged AI for things other than code development?
Totally. I mean, so for pitch development, we didn't use it at all to craft the pitch. It was just me and Jessica over multiple calls, yapping at each other and refining it as two humans within our human loop. But where we did utilize it with the rest of the team was getting the research that we needed for some of the additional data that we didn't have. But even that was very intentional. We were trying to use older startup principles because I actually have an innate belief that the startup principles of talking to your customers and talking to subject matter experts, especially within a time of AI, is extremely valuable because that's where you're going to uncover a lot of the niche um, secrets of the industry, and especially in an industry like healthcare where there is so much, like, if tribal knowledge that can't exactly be found in published data. Um, we use that, but then we also padded in some of our data analysis, computing of like markets and computing of, general estimations of how large the user base could potentially be. Why is this market even important? Why is it venture scale? Those things, we used deep research tools with both Claude and with ChatGPT, but most of where we were actually doing our pitch refinement came from customer discovery calls and us two sitting down and hammering it out. And there's definitely um, I can imagine for a first time founder or someone who is not as well versed on creating a company and talking to folks, I think it's important to try out these tools and see how you can utilize some of those products within your own refinement. But I think for all of us, because we came in with experiences, And especially with the industry we were targeting, it was very imperative for us to be human forward and human centric.
All right. So where does this product, where does the business stand right now? You get to the end of the class in winter quarter, you pitch in front of a whole bunch of VCs who are there, and tell me what happens next.
So the next thing was that actually Jessica Reed and I were pretty guns blazing, ready to keep iterating on it. We were going to pursue conversations with some of the VCs there that were especially very friendly. There, but what ended up happening was Jessica found out through work um, something that all of us had initially missed. And this does happen because one of the key principles of starting a startup is you want to be lean and quick and experimenting heavy and always, always, always finding a reason to kill your startup so that you don't ever get into a place where you're burning investor capital. And we actually found our idea killer right after the pitch competition happened for the class. And that came by way of there was a piece of legislation that was recently rolled out where the CMS, the Center for, I believe it's called, let me just double check this, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services recently decided that for EHR systems, they were going to start fining developers and EHRs that did not grant proper data access in order to make these forms more standardized. So, our whole purpose of Authscript for standardizing this healthcare administrative task completely just went out the window because of this. And some of these fines, as they're going to really be going in and auditing and uh, actually doing the diligence to find violators of this, they can fine up to like $1 million. So this is going to change things for the better. The EHR systems are going to now have pressure to standardize this really, really manual and really hair on fire issue. But our product does not stand anymore, which I'm grateful for. I'd rather have had a very, very solid reason to kill the idea as opposed to, competition or something or the other.
Well, that's a pretty wild ride over the course of 10 weeks to come up with an idea, build out a product that basically works. You got your proof of concept to get
Hmm.
venture capitalists really excited about it, and then get to the point where you're like, wow, the marketplace has shifted completely. The
Hmm.
landscape has shifted, and now we don't have a strong reason for being.
Yeah.
Do you think that without AI, you could have had that experience in such a short amount of time?
You know, that's something that I'd like definitely go back and forth on because there was a time beforehand where we had to do these um, MVPs, minimum viable products, in such a short duration of time. And I remember a time where like, for instance, when Figma first arrived, Figma was an incredible tool that could prototype, and you could even have the ability to click through user interactions, and that's how you would role play with a customer on an idea that you had. um, so I would say that we would have been able to at least iterate over an idea. I think that it would have been more of a question on technical feasibility, a few years ago, as opposed to, let's say, market conditions or competition or all of the other things that could kill a startup. Um, all of this to say that startups have always been hard. They always are going to be hard, and you have had a productivity unlock, but that doesn't mean that it has now become um, like a mega path to riches and fame or whatever just because AI can help you code a product, because product is only one part of a startup. There's so many other things that you have to get right, and everything kind of has to work out. So I'm happy that there is something that is allowing us to be faster, but it is still a worthy pursuit in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have the market fit, you have to have the right market conditions,
Hmm.
all of these things, and everything sort of changes fast. And
Yes.
one of the benefits, right, of a startup is that you can move quickly, you can iterate, and uh, rather than being in sort of this long waterfall process, sort of behind closed doors, and getting really far out sort of over your skis, you can be trying things and responding to those market conditions.
Yeah, and I think that this is one of the things that excites me so much is that previously we had to wait on user feedback and we had to iterate over it maybe like a week or 2 weeks after you got that feedback. Now you can actually include that feedback in the call itself, depending on like the way in which you are prompting or have created your MVP or proof of concept. You can be in a customer call with someone and they say, well, I don't really like this design, or, well, I would have much preferred it to be this way. And then you can go into the back end, change it immediately, maybe give them like a few minutes. Hopefully, this is a friendly contact that you are talking with. And then they can see it right then and there and give feedback right then and there, which has become incredibly, incredibly valuable, just in terms of that iteration.
Let's shift gears from your experience both in this class as well as being someone who came into the program with some knowledge and expertise around AI. What advice would you have for other students, not just in the MBA program, but other business students at Foster, about how to stay on top of developments in AI and stay focused on what is really important and meaningful for the kind of work that they may want to do, and not get distracted with maybe all the shiny bells and whistles, the latest thing, but to stay focused on what really matters and what's going to help them be a more competitive candidate for the jobs they might be applying for.
Yeah, I think that that's a great question. And this is something that I talk to my peers about constantly, because it always feels like with the new developments that are coming out, it feels like you're always kind of behind. But the secret is that everybody kind of always feels like they're
That's what I
behind.
feel like all the time. Every time I open my inbox and I get another newsletter with some new development, I feel like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I didn't have that on my dance card or calendar today.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have friends who work at the big labs that feel like they are behind. So it's just funny. Kind of. The first thing I would definitely tell everybody is have patience. I know it's overwhelming. There's so much information out there, but have patience with yourself. That would be the first thing. The second thing is, if you are starting your morning just by reading like a couple of quick newsletters, even if it's just 10, 15 minutes a day, whether it's TLDR or Tech Presso, or insert your favorite like newsletter here, I think that that is more than enough to be able to keep up with everything, on a high level. But on a more personal level, I think something that I would recommend to those of us that are coming in with industry experience and are professionals that are going back to graduate school, I think that we all fundamentally understand how we work. We know what our workflows are. We know how we do our own best work and what that best work is in. I would suggest that if you want to become AI literate, make AI work with how you do work. Don't try to fundamentally change who you are just because there is a new tool that is taking up so much headspace for everybody. So what this means is if you are not someone that ever knew how to code, if you are coming from a completely non-technical background, um, you shouldn't, in my opinion, unless you're interested in it, I don't think that you should be learning how to do, Python ML exercises, because there's more than enough industry professionals who have many years on you and have better expertise, where you need to kind of understand um, like how to carve out the wedge for yourself is how can you use AI to help you become a little bit more productive in your line of work? And then also to be able to talk to other subject matter experts, whether it's in the industry or the function of job that you're doing. So that's for the more industry professionals. For younger business students, I would say you have your entire future ahead of you. And it feels really difficult to be able to navigate this time because it seems like everybody is asking more and more and more out of 18 and 19-year-olds. Um, I would say rather than getting overwhelmed, experiment. Truly experiment. Is it a tool or is it a way, like, is it a lifestyle for you? Are you someone that, is going to become like such a power user where you have all of these wearables and like your laptop and your phone all plugged into an ecosystem? Or are you someone that is people based and want to kind of push forward and use AI as a tool in how you interact with people? I think that both kind of involve a little bit of digging in personally and understanding what AI means to you. And I think that there's reflection involved in that. But I think that it's no use to anybody to get overwhelmed by how AI is going to change things because it will change things. It's just how does it affect you?
And the things that it'll change, it really is out of any one individual's control. Like
Exactly.
a coder can't control the fact that AI is going to change the job of coders. A writer can't control the fact that AI is changing the writing and editing process. And a coach like myself can't control the fact that there are AI career coaches and presentation and interview coaches out there. But we
Yeah.
can figure out how do we leverage these tools to be better at what we do, to amplify, to increase the scale or scope of the work that we can do beyond, when we're sitting there at the keyboard or in the office with somebody.
Yes, precisely. I think that's exactly right.
So it sounds like you were kind of AI ready on day one that you entered the program. Now, a lot has changed with AI. Coming out of the program, do you feel like you have a really good sense, not just of how to use AI to build products or to solve technical problems, but to solve the kind of business problems that you're likely to face when you get back into the working world after graduation?
I think that I have my own personal perspectives on it. I would say that actually, and then the last couple of years, nothing has drastically changed fundamentally for me personally, only because I always looked at AI as a tool and I always looked at AI as a way to increase output. I never looked at AI as this thing is going to just take over everything and is going to reduce headcount by like 80% or anything like that. Because something that you earlier said in our conversation is that we're still building products for people. Until we're building products for other agents or computer systems or whatever, because we are building products for people, we need people to be able to understand how to use AI and leverage it as a productivity unlock. But I just don't see AI as this doom and gloom thing, and I never did. When the first open beta model of ChatGPT came out, it made me really hopeful because I was researching large language models and neural networks as a little undergrad and knew that all of this was just statistical reasoning, or like the hood of it is just statistical reasoning on how you traverse data and then can transform that data and infer based off of that data. So this is kind of like a winding way to be like, for me personally, even as the models keep improving, just because the models keep improving doesn't mean that there's fundamentally going to be more solutions to the problems that we have. I actually think that we're going to create more problems because of this new era that we're going to usher in. And the reason why I believe that is, think of smartphones, right? Like, we used to have to bring our laptops in order to be able to do like certain key actions.
I
But
remember that, Anshula. 19 years ago, before the iPhone, I remember whipping open my laptop and finding an open wireless network while I was like in a park to fix a problem for a client because I didn't have a phone and couldn't get to an office fast enough.
yeah, yeah. So I'm on the tail end of that, where I remember even like having to bring my laptop to school because I couldn't open up certain web pages or whatever on my own phone. But now, with React, and all of these more modern software systems, we have so much capability within our phones, and AI is going to be something similar to that. I really have this belief that it's going to change the way that users have user interfaces with the products that we use. It's going to change products, but it's going to create so many more problems that we are not aware of. And some of those problems that everybody right now talks about is traversing through the data lakes that exist with how our infrastructure is played out with software currently. That's one. The second is our energy problems on how these models can quickly go through tokens, and are improving really quickly, but then our energy systems are not keeping up fast enough. And a whole host of other issues that we're going to create because of this fundamental shift. So, what all of this again is to say, I think if you are using AI and if you are learning how to use AI and what your place is with AI, and you believe in your own human capacity to innovate and create solutions to the problems that'll inevitably always be there, I think that everyone is going to be AI ready. If you are actively trying not to use I think that that is a personal decision that everyone has to make for themselves. We will have plenty of human only jobs. An example of that is daycare. We
I hope
can't,
we keep that human only.
I hope so too. I don't know about other folks listening to this, but I wouldn't want, a robot taking care of my baby. Um, but there's going to be human only workforces, and that is okay. But for everything else, for the world that we have created, AI has become an ambient horizontal system that is going to be going into every technology. And so we will have humans who are ready to take up that task of modernizing those systems and improving them and creating new systems.
So we're recording this early in your last quarter in the program, spring
hmm
2026. What's next for you? What are you targeting, and what do you hope to be doing after graduation?
So I am going to go back to the startup world, either within a operator role or co-founder role if I find the right opportunity within the next few months. Or my other goal, kind of simultaneously, is to continue working in venture capital as an investor. So my MBA has been very interesting because I came in to experiment and try a lot of new things. And I am happy to say that I accomplished that goal. I worked in product marketing, I worked at a venture studio, And then most recently, I've been working at the largest venture capital fund in the Pacific Northwest. And so I've gotten a diverse look at the corporate and startup landscape when it comes to AI. And so I've been kind of developing out what does the next 3 to 5 years of my life look like, and I know for a fact that I do want to create a startup or co-found a startup with the right team for a problem that I really deeply care about. Well, and I think to get there, I do need to develop a little bit more experience, either as an operator, so a chief of staff role or another sort of product type role that is helping out the C suite. But beyond that, another theory that I have is I think it would be great for me to do pre seed and seed diligence for specifically AI startups because of my technical background. I think it has been very valuable for me to due diligence on a lot of these startups and see how many of these ideas are coming through and where can I poke holes. Not because I want to poke holes, but because I want to enable startup founders to really be successful and get it right.
All right. Well, that sounds like you've got a plan. And I hope that I'll be able to have you back on Conversations on Careers and Professional Life to tell us about your startup at some point in the future. Anshula, thank
Yeah,
you so
that is the goal.
much. Thank you so much for having this conversation on careers and professional life.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. This was so much fun. It's a topic that I'm very passionate about and is something that, I hope to keep having conversations about and thinking through because we have a lot of thinking and solution finding left to be done.
All right. Thank you. Here are a couple things that stood out for me from my conversation with Anshula. You need to know when to kill the idea. Anshula's team shut down Authscript when new CMS regulations eliminated their reason for existing. Find your idea killer early, before you're burning capital. Second, customer discovery still beats AI research. The most valuable insights came from talking to people. AI supported the market sizing, but the real signal came from humans in the room. Third, make AI work for how you already work. Don't reinvent yourself for the tool. Figure out where AI makes you more productive in your existing workflow and start there. Thanks for listening to Conversations on Careers and Professional Life. If this episode was useful, share it with a friend or classmate. You can help others find the show by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or Amazon Music. And hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of the AI Ready miniseries. Conversations on Careers and Professional Life is produced by me, Gregory Heller, with support from the Foster School of Business MBA Career Management Office and Foster's AI Task Force. Show notes, past episodes, and contact info are all at conversationsoncareers.com.